Tuesday.
Leo ni Tuesday.
Tunafanyanga nini?
Tuna miss me with that. on Tuesdays, we say miss me with that. We are very ready for Tuesday. And we say this is the most productive day of the week. So it's about to go down. But I know for Fellaris, there's a few things that were eating at you regarding the deputy president's
utterances.
Yeah, let's call them utterances. That's a nice word.
That's a nice word.
Yeah, Fellaris, what's eating at you?
What's eating at me is will be best explained by the clip that we're just about to run, and then we'll be right back. Philo, I believe we have the clip of the deputy president who was speaking on Sunday. Let's take a listen.
Katiba. Ule mtu anasema one term hajasoma katiba. Katiba imesema tu. Katiba imesema tu. Term ya kwanza ni ya kuleta programs na kuleta policies na kuleta marekebisho na kuleta ile miradi ambayo inaambatana na ruwaza ya huyo kiongozi kama kiongozi wa taifa. Term ya pili ni ya kukamilisha. Kwa sababu katiba imesema term ni ngapi? Term ni ngapi? Kwanza hii tu term imeanza juzi. Katika katiba ya zamani hakukuwa hata na limit. Ndio uliona ule mzee alikuwa hapa 24 years. Moi karibu akuwe long term. Lakini sasa tuko na katiba ambaye tunaheshimu. Lakini hiyo katiba imetuambia hakuna rais, kulingana na katiba, hakuna rais anaweza kuanzisha na kukamilisha mambo ya maendeleo ya nchi na miaka mitano. Ikasema kuwe na 2 term.
That is the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Kithure Kindiki, misinforming the public on matters constitution. So what does the constitution say about presidential limits and terms? So Article 142 of the Constitution of Kenya reads, a presidential term is 5 years, and this is linked to the election cycle under Article 136. A president can serve a maximum of 2 terms. Article 142 of the Constitution of Kenya also reads, a person shall not hold office as president for more than 2 terms. The Constitution also provides that a presidential term begins when the president is sworn in and ends when the next elected president is sworn in. The same Constitution reads, any attempt to change the presidential term limit would require a constitutional amendment, and because the term of office of the president is a protected provision, it would require approval through a referendum. So here is my message to the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Professor Kithure Kindiki, who is a senior counsel. He has a PhD in international law. He taught constitutional law at the University of Nairobi for years, and he's not a man who does not know what the Constitution says. So when he stood in front of Kenyans on Sunday, talking about that one presidential term is unconstitutional, I need us to understand one thing very clearly. What he was saying is not true. He knew exactly what he was saying, and the Constitution, like we've read, states it very, very clearly. More than 2 terms is, the cap is at 2 terms. Yeah. But you have to be re-elected by the people of Kenya. The Constitution clearly outlines and gives a ceiling, not a floor. It is the maximum, not the minimum. So a president can serve 1 term and walk away with full constitutional legitimacy. 1 term is not unconstitutional, as you say, Mr. Kindiki. 1 term is a choice. We had Mother Karua earlier here today, and she said that her choice is to run for 1 term, so we can allow for another administration to come in. So this misrepresentation of the Constitution, I call it very deliberate, and it's very dangerous, because you're speaking to people who do not have the Constitution at hand to read it for themselves, and you are politicizing a Constitution that is a legal document that has clear outlines of what a presidential term looks like. It is unbecoming of someone that holds your stature, your office, and the good people of Kenya would actually require for you to come in and clarify your statement, because that in itself is very dangerous and sets a precedence for other politicians to come in and legitimize that claim while the law says something completely different. That is wrong. Miss me with that.
Crockett. I couldn't agree more. Shame.
Big shame.
Shame on Kithure Kindiki. Like you said, professor of what?
International law.
Professor of international law.
Senior counsel.
Senior counsel.
Yes.
Has taught law at the University of Nairobi.
Correct.
Okay.
Big questions there because, again, and I like what Mother said, you're being economical
with the
truth.
Mm-hmm.
It is you going out there to Kenyans who would chant whatever it is that you want because for them this is politicking.
Yes.
And we're getting into such high-octane politics and campaign season for us to let such things seep through the cracks because we crack a small door open, and what are you doing to the political consciousness of the people?
Right.
Is that the people now start actually saying, yeah, the deputy president said this is it. They have a foot to stand on because they're looking at you as the leader, as the person who ought to be speaking the truth. And it speaks to the level of responsibility that our politicians are held to. Mm-hmm. But they themselves, when you take on that microphone, is it the excitement that then gets you to say some of these things?
Right.
It is. I don't think it's something that we should allow to just pass. I would want to see the Law Society of Kenya come out and speak to this because we start at this. Where does the buck stop?
Yes.
Where does the buck stop? Mm-hmm. Before you know it, it becomes an entitlement to the second term.
Yeah.
That takes away from the democracy of Kenyans to go to the ballot to vote for the next government. Mm-hmm. And it does not have to be the government that is of the day.
Yeah.
The people can decide otherwise. If you've not set your agenda for the next government to come and continue with the work you've been doing, then you cannot then come in and get the constitution to do your bidding when the constitution is very clear.
Yep.
It's terrible that even had to come from those quarters.
No, I couldn't put it any better, to be honest. I usually try to think of what is behind the scenes, behind the curtains, what's being masked, what the underhanded thing here is when people speak like this. And, I'm not under any impression that a professor of international law who was lectured at the University of Nairobi, who is a senior counsel, does not understand the provisions of the Constitution. No. Nope. It is deliberate misinformation. It is dangerous. It is careless, and it's a big shame. And the fact that this has been done at a time when we are almost a year to an election, again, it's an even bigger shame. But then what's underhanded to me is, are you trying to prime people for something, trying to make this regular conversation so that, and I've seen it happen with this administration often. At times it's when there's something else that's happening that people are unhappy about. And it's like, okay, let's distract them. What can we get them angry about? So it'll be some random legislator who never talks now saying, oh, we should do 7-year terms instead of 5-year terms. It'll be a guy you've never heard speak on the floor of parliament or whose opinion has never been heard until that day, and suddenly they just want to get the people going, so they say a term should be 7 years. Okay. Or Professor Kindiki comes and says it should 2 terms are constitutional, the first term is to lay the foundation and blah blah. And so that to me speaks to something more sinister. Like, what are we being distracted from? What are you trying to do? It's one of two things. Either it's a distraction or you're priming us, trying to prime or manufacture consent for 2-term, nonsense.
Or extended presidential term limits.
Either way, it's a massive shame for someone who holds such a high office. The second highest office in the land, in fact. And what I think we must do, and you're right, the Law Society of Kenya should pursue. I don't even know what this falls under. It's just mis and disinformation.
Correct.
But I don't think the deputy president should just be allowed to continue, moving around like that. You are a leader, second highest office in the land. What do you mean that you don't suddenly understand the basics of the Constitution? So I think there's a follow-up. I'm not sure legally what it looks like, but I know that's why the Law Society of Kenya exists and other actors. To be fair, so many politicians will try and do this and that, but then to hear it from the second highest office in the land is just, it's jarring. It's jarring and disappointing.
This is not the first time we've had politicians invoking the Constitution, and where there's merit, please invoke the Constitution, because we can always, it's a reference document. But here where it is so in broad daylight, it is, I don't understand. And you see also, let's look at the other things that he said. The preamble was, there's someone that ruled and governed this country for 24 years. Then we had others that came after him. Right. So what justification again are we coming in to give? And also again, what are we putting out to the collective psyche of the people?
Yeah.
Is that if one person had 24 years, please, even
a
us,
mere 10 years.
You know, a mere 10 years. But what does the law say? What does the Constitution say? Irresponsibility coming in from the political class is something we'll continue calling out because it does more harm than good. And if they're not held accountable, is where we see just outright impunity, down to the point where insinuations can be made, and we say, yeah, these politicians who are arming goons, why are we not naming them? We are encouraging a culture of just people speaking and not being held accountable.
Yes.
It's layered. It takes so many forms. Yesterday, the CS of Interior, Kipchumba Murkomen, again, when held to account for the said political figures that are funding goons, he could not substantiate those claims. But again, what are you doing? You're sharing information, being cagey about said information, and that in itself, again, it's a problem that's cutting across the political class in terms of irresponsible utterances.
I'll stretch the miss me with that a little bit to us as the media and say, I think it is our responsibility to Kenyans to give some of this nonsense a blackout.
Yes.
And I say that, it sells. It sells. Fine. He said 2 terms are da-da-da. Yeah, it sells. But what we're... essentially, there is a role for us to just give this nonsense a blackout, so that when they keep saying the same thing over and over again, with no responsibility, no one taking them to court, no one actually holding them accountable, it's okay. We can also choose not to platform. True. So you can be shouting into essentially nothing, into a wall, shouting into vast emptiness. And no one would ever know that Kithure Kindiki said 2-term.
That's true.
Yeah, and that's okay. Or
and
only
it stops at that point.
It stops at that point.
Yeah.
So I think
I agree with you.
It's either if we're putting it on air, there has to be some accountability holding, which I think is what we're trying to do here. Yeah. If not, then don't. Yeah. I think that's for us as well. Because the other thing, if Kipchumba Murkomen and every other politician says goons, the politicians are paying goons until you tell us who is the politician paying goons.
We'll not talk about it.
Yeah, let's not talk about it because you're wasting our time.
And it's such harmful rhetoric.
It
so
really is.
At some point, it has to give us more than just saying goons. I agree with you, Mariam. Very good point.
Okay. Most people, this is a little feedback as we just close the hour from Renson Makala. Most people he was talking to take most things said by leaders as the gospel truth. At what point do we hold them to account also? He was wrong, but so are the people who believe him.
The people sometimes don't know any better.
Yeah. I'll say this. This is where I can be like, okay, as a media practitioner, as a journalist, what am I doing to inform people that this is absolute BS? It's this. It's what you're doing, fella, and saying, miss me with that. But I wouldn't put the blame on them for not knowing. Siezi Sema, I wouldn't put the responsibility on them. I'm going to just put it on Kithure Kindiki entirely. And on the political class. He knows what he was doing. Misinforming people on purpose, and it's lying, actually. Misinformation is even a cute word. It's just, you're flat out a liar. You're a liar, Kithure Kindiki. So then what we need to do is ensure that we counter that.
Correct.
I don't think there's any responsibility really to put on the people who may not have been otherwise better informed. To be
you counter lies with truth.
Yeah. We don't need, this is Baba 3 Girl saying, we don't need the LSK or any other body. We need to vote them out. True, but elections are in 2027.
Yes.
Until then, we have to hold them accountable.
Correct.
Also, a lot of these things are done for posterity. It's the same question when people ask, why do you report to the same police that are part of the problem? Why do you? Because they might not always be you know what? They will not always be there. They will not always be the power holders. Kithure Kindiki will not always be the deputy president. So it's okay for posterity that you actually ensure that these things are reported, that there's a record that you went against them. History will remember. History will remember. It will remember correctly. But I see a lot of feedback. Ranson finally saying, Alchemy is saying, morning fixers, kindly register as a voter and spread the message. Yes, continuous voter registration is still going on, so you can go to your nearest constituency office and of course still register as a voter. But we have to end the show right there.
Absolutely. And here's your reminder for you that is looking to build wealth. Britam Life Insurance, that policy is yours. Sign up, send a text message with your location with the word life and your location to 21778. That's 21778, and you get to choose between 10 years, 15 years, 20 years for you to make your payments and then cash out at the end of that term, and it is all tax-free. I will not stop saying that because you have to safeguard your future, future-proof yourself and that of your loved ones. Well, coming right up is Your World. Leo tuko na Mary Mwikali and Winnie Lubembe talking about the relationship we never agreed to. What happens when your partners want different versions of love, commitment, and family?
Oh, okay. On Nation FM, Claudia Naisabwa and Brian Aseli are on Vibe Shift. We'll be back here tomorrow, 6 to 10 a.m. for another amazing edition of Fixing the Nation. From myself, Mariam Bishar, Fellaris Wambui, and Eric Latif in absentia, have an amazing, amazing Tuesday.